Alright, hey guys, Dave for Awesome here. This is kind of a different format than any of my usual videos. I guess let me know if you like this little change up. Usually if I do a game review, I take you through the story of the game, I have some jokes kind of cut in, and I have more of a script. But because I was able to actually play this game on the channel, and I just had so much more that I wanted to say about it, I figured that the best time to the best way to get all of my excess love for this game out would be in a video like this. I'm finishing Fiona and Cake season 1 right now, which that's fun. But anyway, this game was great. Like, I already reviewed all of the PS3 games, and I already loved those games. I played them way too young. I played them when I was a little kid. But I think that one of my favorite part is just how different it feels. You know, it's. I know when this came out, people thought it was going to be a reboot, since it focused on Norse mythology, and then throughout this game, they kind of slowly revealed to you that it's not. It's actually a true sequel. I love the writing. The movie quality writing. No wonder that this is the game they wanted to make into a TV show over at Amazon, because it definitely deserves it. I was worried. I always find kid companions in a lot of games to be very annoying, but I found myself really enjoying Atreus, even in moments where he was kind of an asshole. I truly, really enjoyed a lot of moments of this game, and I think personally, I relate to both main protagonists quite a lot. Starting with Atreus as a kid, I felt like nobody understood me. I felt alone, and I've had a bit of a temper problem, and I had a parent that was gone, and a parent that was very emotionally absent, and then going into Kratos. So I understood being that upset kid, and I also understood Kratos' point of view now that I have kids of my own, wanting to avoid letting them fall into the same mistakes that you have, but knowing that they have to forge their own path eventually. It's a very heavy burden that you wear on your soul, and I'm a big fan of this story. I think that it was the right turn for Kratos to become regretful of his past decisions. I think that those first few games were a lot of I know my mother's criticism of them was that they were just mindless violence most of the time and things like that, and I think that this game kind of manages to do the opposite of that, where almost all of the violence is directly caused by someone attacking you first. You aren't this rageful man going and killing people anymore, even though he had his motivations. You're actually protecting yourself, living in the wilderness. You're a much calmer version of Kratos, and I think even the voice actor change reflects that. At the time that I'm filming this, I'm in the process of playing through God of War Ragnarok. That's probably going to be the next review on the channel, but I wasn't really sure I haven't really finished it yet, so I haven't decided, but I think so far I like the story of this game much more, but I like some of the gameplay of Ragnarok a little more. I think it's cool being able to play as Atreus in Ragnarok, and having the Blades of Chaos from the very beginning made Ragnarok's gameplay a little better for me, but I think that the story of this game was what really got me through it. There's some games where the story isn't good enough for me to be like, this sucks, being on the same scene or mission 5, 6, 7, or 8 times. Probably more than that. I don't think I've ever quit after that low, but you get my point. But this game, I was so determined to see the journey through to the end that I didn't care. And I think after the cosmically, or almost cosmically, kind of huge plot lines of God of War 3 and even God of War 2, I think that returning to a much simpler story about just him and his son trying to spread his wife's ashes. And that's where something with the Ragnarok plot so far kind of falls flat for me, though, is the Ragnarok plot is so the world's gonna end and we're the only ones that can stop it, and that's just not. I much preferred a more simpler plot, and I got a little bit of tonal whiplash going from the first game where it was realistic, it was slow moving, it was grounded, to the beginning of the second game feeling like a complete tonal whiplash. It feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, they're on a sled fighting against Freya, then Atreus is a bear, and it just feels like a bunch of quick things happen in succession. And I get the point. I get that they wanted to further the storyline, But I think that, honestly, like, I think I'm about halfway through the game already, and I've only made like 5 or 6 episodes. So I think so far I'm enjoying most of the first game's story more, Ragnarok's gameplay more. But I found myself getting stuck on Ragnarok's puzzles way more than I found myself getting stuck on this game's puzzles. Other than those Nornir chests, those things can just straight fuck off. But I had a lot of fun with a lot of those parts. I think the combat I could do with a little tweaking, at least in this one. I think it improves a lot in Ragnarok. I think that you don't have enough moves through most of this game. All you're doing is using the axe. And it gets to a point where you kind of tend to sit there, you're kind of like, hey, like, come on. Every fight kind of just becomes mashing the same few buttons. It was kind of the same in the original games. I'll admit that. There's a lot of mindless fighting in those games. But the styles are too different. Like, the original games, you could just, like, clear out a room of enemies, and it was such a fast-paced style that it flowed really well. I think this game, there's too many times where you're just in the middle of something, and then there's just a bunch of enemies, and you have to pause and just mug until they're gone. What else? I don't like how a lot of the story happens because of an accident. Like, they go into the cave to go get an artifact, the cave ground falls down, and then you have to climb all the way up of it. Like, it got to a point where I couldn't take the cutscenes seriously sometimes. If I watched them about to get an artifact or do something where it felt like it was going well, I was sitting there going, what's going to happen now? And most of the time I was right. So I think that going from... maybe they should have toyed with us a little more, because it got a little predictable, admittedly. But it doesn't really take away from the enjoyment. I'm just a very analytical kind of person. But, yeah. Do I think I'm going to replay this game again in the future? I don't know. I think a lot of the problem with story-driven games like these is there's exceptions to this rule, but the difficulty level and the length are actually negatives. Because as great as the story is, it's not like a movie where if I want to rewatch the story and admire it, it's like 2 hours. It's the kind of game that it's like a 12 to 15 hour long story. And I just don't think I would ever sit down and dedicate playing through it again, knowing everything that happens in it. But maybe that's just me. And I bring that up because the original games didn't have that problem for me. I played through those many times. So I think it goes to show that just because the story good doesn't mean that it's replayable. I would rather watch all the cutscenes online than play through the whole thing again. And like I said, I don't feel that way for the original games. I think that's where gameplay is the most important part. If the gameplay loop isn't worth getting back into to experience the story, it's not going to be fun. But if both of them are interwoven and interesting, if I'm not just saying, oh man, that was such a cool story, but I'm sitting there going, what an innovative gameplay system, then you've won. And I don't think God of War does that. It feels very basic. Whereas when the original games came out, like, how many games were cloning this formula? Like Thor: God of Thunder, Shrek the Third. So many games trying to emulate the original God of War because it was popular. This game, I feel like there are people trying to emulate it in the sense of like the child you have to protect, but that was done before this. That was done with The Last of Us, or kind of the style of fighting a gameplay, but I think that most of them have improved upon it very much. Most of what's in this game can be traced back to other games, like Soulsborne games, or, you know, even The Last of Us is a decent comparison. Whereas with God of War, the originals, there's no other. When those came out, there weren't, and there was no other game at the time like it. And so, I think, and they don't change enough of the gameplay in Ragnarok for me to be interested in replaying that either. So, I hope the new game coming up does a little better at that. But my hopes aren't super high. But I'm sure the story will be great, because they've been great so far.